You in this battle, man, I'll soon be dead. I'll glue your face to my dick so I can fuck with your head. I got metaphors coming through my pores. You probably never been in a battle before, so I hope you realize your mistake. There ain't no party, got some candles, this won't be a piece of cake. Put your face.
Okay, folks. Good morning and welcome to the Before Hours podcast hosted by an occasional morning person. I ask the most interesting people I know about their sleep, their routine, life, love, stress, setbacks, whatever else comes to mind. Please don't forget to write to the Before Hours podcast at gmail.com. Tell us about your routine and we might read it on the air. But for now, we have a hilarious comedian, New York City daddy, roast champion, and he even performs across the pond. And you've seen him on the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Please welcome to the podcast, Ben Miller. How's it going, Ben?
Thanks for having me. And I appreciate you scheduling this in the afternoon because, you know, I'm not a morning person.
You are the most not morning person I know, which is interesting because you are also the most conscientious person I know. And I feel like those are usually, at least in my opinion, seem as polar opposites. Like if someone says I slept till noon, I think that they're not conscientious, but you'll sleep till noon and you're very conscientious.
Yeah, because I'm up all night racked with anxiety.
Is that what it is?
Not always.
Mm-hmm. See, Ben and I have been friends for years, and I'm now just learning that what keeps him up at night might be anxiety. Are you okay? That's how we start. That's how we start the podcast. Are you doing well?
The first time you've asked me in 7 years.
Yeah. Ben's like, I'm not doing well. I'm like, yeah, we got to go to this fucking show. Come on. Okay, so that's interesting because you don't. I don't peg you as a particularly anxious person, but I think I'm wrong.
I think I'm good at keeping everything on the inside.
Okay. Well. We're going to open Pandora's box today.
Oh no, please don't.
So what kept you up last night?
I don't know. I think just generally I'm very bad at getting to sleep. Like I'll be tired and in bed and ready to sleep. And my body's like, actually 3 more hours is how long you need to stay up.
Dude, it's the worst feeling. Because I feel like when that happens to me, when I cannot sleep and I'm supposed to sleep, like something is happening tomorrow.
Yeah, like you have an important podcast with your friend.
Yeah, you have an important 2 p.m. podcast and you're like, fuck, I need to be sleeping right now. I actually had trouble falling asleep last night. And I felt like that was, you know, the universe's way of being like, you need to empathize with Ben tomorrow. Yeah. I feel so angry at myself when I can't fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm angry at you too.
Yeah. You don't really get angry.
No.
Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe you might hold on to the occasional quiet rage.
Well, what do you think I would be angry about, Bobby?
I don't know. What would Ben be angry about? I feel like someone maybe someone bragging about being on a show with Mark Norman and someone else might be.
Oh, we're doing this up top.
Fuck it, dude. Let's do it. Let's fucking. Connor can bleep out names if he wants. I think probably something I should have cleared beforehand. But no, we won't say his name. But you and I, we both went to a roast show last night.
Yeah,
and
Bobby did very well. He's too humble to say that he won and he crushed it.
Boom! Yeah, this episode is definitely coming out after that roast battle has been posted to YouTube. So I did win, but it was by a hair, because it went to overtime.
Yeah.
So I feel like whenever you go to overtime, it's like, yeah, we both did well. Like I can't be like I dominated. You know
sure.
Which I wanted to because my opponent was a woman, but you know what it is. But yeah, there was a comic, and the premise of the joke, correct me if I get any of this wrong, was you know, I forget his name. John Smith once performed on a show with Mark Norman and guy we know from doing open mics.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to hear what other people think about who is making moves and who's not making moves.
Yeah. Like posts a lot of Instagram reels, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I feel like he used to all the time be I used to run a show in the basement of the hostel in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
So just like trying to do jokes to like French teenagers that are wholly indifferent. Mm-hmm. And someone's like, this is the guy that's made it actually.
Yeah.
So he can bomb for poor foreigners.
Uh-huh. I got a cough. Make your plugs while I cough.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Or Okay, I'm not sure if you're being
This
facetious
is
or not.
bad podcasting. No, I actually wasn't sure how long I was going to be coughing for, so it could have been an actual thing. But we'll save your plugs
Yeah.
for the end.
Do you
But,
think it's pneumonia because you weren't able to sleep last night?
dude, I like to get my 9 hours, and I'm running on 7 right now.
Yeah, that's what you say when you're angry. You don't get enough sleep. 999.
So you guys may notice throughout the episode that Ben is the pun master. Nobody does more puns than Ben, and he has a gleam in his eye every time he does it, so you know it's coming. It's always a good time. How many hours did you get last night?
Oof. So I probably got to bed at like 3 a.m., which is early for me, and I'm very proud. Because what I do now is I listen to like long, boring like YouTube video essays. So there's some like mathematical nonsense. And then, but I was woken up at like 10 a.m. The super in my building was very upset at me. I think this is a situation where I don't want to be wrong, but I think I might be wrong. And that it was raining last night, and I had my window open, and I was out watching you crush at roast battles. So you better be on my side. And all the water came in through the window and apparently leaked down through the floor and into the person below, and like ruined some important documents because they got wet. Is it my fault for the window open, or is it his fault because the building's bad and leaky?
I just find it very unfortunate that someone's getting deported. And it's because of you, Ben. No, I think you're entitled to leave your window open, and I do think that you can't always. I mean, my thing is close the window before you leave the house, but inevitably, even if that's your rule, you're gonna forget. So the
Yeah.
building shouldn't be so shitty that would happen.
Okay,
So
so you'll be the character witness in court.
I'll be the character witness. I'll be like, listen, I've known Ben for years. He's a good man. We eat fast food after comedy shows. He's a good guy. And you can't give him any more things to be anxious about, or he'll never get to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's I'm gonna say 40-60. 40% of your fault, 60% his fault.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I was willing to accept more than half, so I
Uh-huh.
appreciate you lowering my sentence.
That's what happens when you get into a car accident, that the insurance company figures out what percentage of your fault it is.
Yeah.
And apparently 10% is the fault that they'll give you, even if it was like objectively not your fault at all. Because I got T-boned by this guy, and the insurance company was like, yeah, it was only 10% your fault because you could have seen him earlier and hit the brakes.
You could have chosen not to have a car, Bob.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like what I remember from driving school is they always said, if someone says they came out of nowhere,
Mhm.
that's code for you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
So you can't say that. You have to be like, I saw them and I chose to run over that pedestrian.
Yeah. They say, if a deer runs into the middle of the road, you either slam on the brakes or keep going, depending on the situation.
Is that a joke? Why did the deer cross the road? It didn't. I hit it with my car.
Yeah, I've dude, the town that I'm from. So I'm for the listeners, I'll say I'm from upstate New York, and there's lots of deer. And I feel like it's very unusual to meet somebody that grew up in the area that I grew up in that hasn't murdered a deer with their car. It's just inevitable because of how many deer are around. Louis C.K. has this bit about how like they're like the rats of like upstate New York, because they're just like everywhere, and they look beautiful, but they're actually like pests.
Yeah. If upstate New York was 1940s Germany, they'd be like, these Jews are like deer. They're so beautiful and prancing around the forest.
And guys, Ben can make that joke. He's Jewish,
Oh,
and I can
yeah.
laugh at it because I think it's funny. That I'm making the connection now that you sometimes have trouble falling asleep because you're anxious. And what is a stereotype about our Jewish friends?
You better not.
You just made a joke about Jews being rats, but my thing is like sometimes they're anxious. You're like too far.
No, I didn't say that. I was bringing awareness to the historical fact of
Mhm.
deeply hurtful propaganda and then making a humorous comparison to what if it was different propaganda.
I'm just imagining like the apology aesthetics like in the Instagram reel.
Yeah.
For like, I've been a friend of the Jews for a
Yes.
long time.
Listen, it's 40% my fault, 60% your fault.
It's what the guy said at the Nuremberg trial. Listen, I am willing to take some of the L on this one. That I cannot do any
Yeah.
fucking accents, dude.
He's saying taking the L.
Yeah. Gen Z Nazis. Actually, they do exist. There was a whole march. Yeah. So dear, I actually, this is, so tell me if this is an unlikable thing that I do.
Yes.
Oh, yes, as in you will tell me, not yes, you've already made up your mind that it's unlikable.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in a place where there were a lot of deer, I was taught, like before I even started driving, that the rule when you see a deer is not to swerve out of its way, but to slam on your brakes. You slam on your brakes regardless, because at least you still have control of the vehicle. Like if you try to swerve around the deer, your car might roll. I'm like, I know a kid that like almost died from swerving out of the way of a deer. He's fine. But because of this, whenever I'm a passenger in a vehicle, and this happened with my ex, actually, I was driving, or her dad was driving rather, and they're city folks. They're all from New York, and I feel like this might have been unlikable, but I was just like, just so you know, if a deer jumps out of the road, you slam on the brakes, not swerve out of the way. And her dad was like, "Are you telling me how to drive?" I'm like, "You don't know about the deer."
Oh my gosh, you tried to become the man of the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why it ended. You're like gonna like ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. He's like, actually, you can't.
Not until you apologize for big dogging me in front of my family.
It's also weird that like 5 minutes into the car, you're already giving out deer murder knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, you're going to hit a deer, and I'm going to show you how to humanely end its life.
Yeah. I did one time. I was my parents live in a town that's in a valley. So there's a lot of like windy mountain roads that you have to drive through to get to the town that I live in. And that's where like most of the deer fatalities take place. And I remember one time there were like a couple of flares. So I slowed down and I drove past a deer, and trigger warning for people that don't like animal suffering. The deer's like neck had been broken, and it was like kind of doing this shit. For those just listening, I don't know how to describe this. Like kind of like,
yeah, sort of like you're like about to fall asleep, and you just
yes, but it was about to fall asleep forever.
Yes.
And there was this cop, and he had his hand on his gun and was just kind of looking around. So I fucking knew as soon as I drove past him that the deer's life was about to be ended. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And he's like, listen, don't worry. The deer had a gun.
Yeah. I just hear in the background, stop resisting. Yeah, I mean, I think he should have used the taser first, but you know how deer are. No, this rip is in a direction you don't want to go in. Although you were saying some interesting things about the Jews before, Ben. I know. Context is everything.
Why did you say interesting? I was just recounting history, and you're like, oh, I should take notes. Actually,
we had this. We were doing a podcast where I was describing blockbusting for people, and it weirdly turned into, wow, Bobby, that's fucked up. Why would you do that? I'm like, I'm just explaining what it is.
Yeah, you weren't like, this is my favorite thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you fell asleep at 3 a.m. last night. That's about the time I fell asleep too.
Yeah.
I generally don't like staying up that late, but so you listen to boring science videos to fall asleep to?
Math videos.
Math.
Science is exciting, and math is the boring one, and how dare you?
Yeah. Okay, so you're a science guy.
Yeah. Oh, I think you would like this. What I used to do for a couple years in like middle and high school is I was like a very sad emo kid, and there's this website called 6 Billion Secrets, and it was a bunch of like emo kids talking about how sad they were. The idea being like there's 6 billion people in this world and everybody has a secret. That
Ugh.
was the tagline. And I would read this website every night and for hours, and then I would cry myself to sleep.
Hell yeah, Ben. That's damn. So you had so much empathy for all of these secrets that you were like so sad, but also it helped you fall asleep.
I don't know if it helped me fall asleep.
Oh, okay.
I think it might have permanently ruined my ability to fall asleep.
Okay, yeah. I have sort of a similar thing where I'll like almost like read depressing things on like Reddit. Like Reddit has a couple like subreddits that are like morbid reality before it was like gore would be like this is so and so's like last picture before they were falsely executed, and you just kind of get a dopamine hit from being sad.
Yeah, you read that, you get a little bit hard. And
Yeah. And then you do what you have to do. That's a new version of pouring one out for the homies, I guess. Okay, 6 billion secrets. So you would read these
Yeah.
and man, I've heard the expression cry yourself to sleep, but I didn't know people actually did it.
Oh yeah. If
Mhm.
if you're a very sad boy.
Damn. Okay, because I'm so Irish Catholic, dude, that
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't cry, and I don't say that to sound tough. It's like it's an emotional handicap of mine that it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I haven't cried in years. I think
Yeah. Okay, you developed it. Uh-huh.
No, it's like I maxed out on crying.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My grandpa, he quit drinking, and when people would ask him about it, he said everybody's allotted a certain amount of beer, and I drank mine all up in my early 20s, which I think is a good line. And it sounds like a similar thing with crying. You're like, I got it out of my system.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's so interesting. So you wouldn't recommend people do that to fall asleep. It's not a good nighttime routine.
No, I think it's also very compelling when you're 12,
Mhm.
but I feel like if I went back as an adult, it would also be like, my mom doesn't understand me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was crying at this.
Yes. Just because now that you're older, you're like, yeah, bitch, your mom's got to go to work. Like, we have stuff to do. She can't always like read your poetry at every given time. You being an emo kid is very funny to me.
Yeah, I guess it sort of was like a diary.
Okay.
And not to get back on the Jewish stuff,
Mhm.
but like I think it was 4th grade or maybe 5th grade, they made us read the diary of Anne Frank,
Okay.
which is sort of like the ultimate emo kid.
Yeah.
Adolf just doesn't understand.
Yeah. I never read that book.
Really?
I know. It's kind of strange, isn't it?
Oh, you don't want me to ruin it for you?
Yeah, don't tell me how it ends. Okay, so you read Anne Frank's diary and you're like, I need to read more sad children. But it goes down in terms of like intense, like she's
Yeah.
like, I'm hiding from the Nazis, and then this kid's like, my brother, sometimes he'll make fun of me in front of his friends. Yeah, man. That's interesting. I feel like people all have their night routine, and it sounds like yours, not the one you had when you were a kid, but the one that you have now where you listen to boring math videos, is very helpful because it keeps your mind like a little stimulated. Because I feel like what keeps me up at night sometimes is the thought. I think Doug Stanhope calls it the carnival, where you just have the thoughts in your head and they just like, they're usually not friendly. Like you don't usually like close your eyes, put your head on the pillow, and then your thoughts are like, you're doing a great job. Like, you're so talented and hardworking,
I love myself so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry guys.
Remember this thing from your past? It was awesome.
Yeah.
You said all the right things in that interaction.
The thing about you, Bobby, is that you're just one person trying his best. Yeah.
I can't say this is so much fun.
Yeah. So it's almost, because I do a similar thing. There's this guy on YouTube, Dr. Todd Grande. Shout out Todd Grande, and he's a I like psychology. That's really interesting to me. So I feel like that's my version of listening to math videos, where it's like, I'll listen to him, pontificate for 15 minutes about what it means to be, an introvert or an extrovert, or like be high in openness to experience. And that just lulls me into a sleep. I'm sure you would be upset to hear that that's what his videos are doing.
Yeah, they're so terribly boring.
Like, what are these math videos that put you to sleep?
They're like very long, like calculus equations and stuff like that.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I mean, they're sort of interesting. There is an amount of them that I'll watch while I'm actually awake, but then there's an amount of them where like I just don't understand it. Like it
Mhm.
needs to be like a level of like I can understand some of the words, but some of the things are like too complicated,
Uh-huh.
so it's a little bit off-putting as well. Or like, yeah,
That makes sense. So it's sort of like it's stimulating enough that you're not necessarily having like the anxious nighttime thoughts, but it's like you're not gonna all of a sudden sit up and be like, I have to help solve this equation.
yeah. I'm not like Matt Damon and Goodwill Hunting.
I forget who I was talking about this the other day, but I was laughing thinking about Matt Damon and Goodwill Hunting. And if you're unfamiliar with the premise, folks, Matt Damon is a janitor at Harvard, I think.
MIT, maybe.
MIT, yeah, and then but he's like a genius.
Yeah.
But he's a janitor that like he can't get out of his own way, so that's why he's not going to the college and he's working there as a janitor. But somebody like someone writes a hard equation that no one in the class can solve, and then like Matt Damon walks up and he's a genius, so he writes it right away. I was just laughing thinking about like the version of that movie, but Matt Damon is just kind of a regular janitor, and what he writes is like totally wrong. And the professor's like, "Can you please leave my classroom?" That's the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I think it's also like a more compelling idea, like back in the 90s, like, oh, this person that has an idiot's job is actually smart.
Yeah.
But now everyone with a PhD works at Starbucks.
Yeah. Oh man, that is kind of interesting that we lived in a lot like a society not too far ago where it was like, yeah, if you had a college degree, you had a white collar job. Yeah, I was like when I graduated with my illustrious political science degree, I was like delivering pizza, working at a gas station. Yeah, but now I'm a podcaster, Ben. We did it.
Yeah.
We came full circle.
But you're getting back to the political science. You're like now starting to incorporate a lot of like the history stuff into your comedy.
Yes. Yeah, I love history. It's fascinating to me how different life was like even like not too far ago, like antebellum America is like what I'm most interested in. And yeah, what a sus thing to say, huh? Back when life was a little simpler and everybody knew their place, and I wonder what their nighttime routine was because they don't have the listen to boring videos options. Like they were 100% alone with their thoughts,
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe if you could like pay someone to read to you or something like that.
Oh,
Like, instead of
or
on-
force somebody to read to you.
Oh,
As it
yeah,
were.
yeah. You're right. I was trying to be politically correct. You're like, you'll pay someone.
Dude, the idea that like a southern plantation owner like teaches a slave to read, which is unusual, but he's like only so I could get a nice bedtime story. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I do like
Yeah, that is funny. It's like an adult bedtime story. Is my mom no longer will read to me, so I have to have some guy on YouTube do it.
Oh no. Yeah, that is. Yeah, we're having virtual mommies read to us. Oh man, I don't actually remember. I'm sure it happened, but I don't remember getting read to as a child, which means they must have stopped my mom and dad like before I was creating memories. That has to be what it was. Do you have memories of your mom reading a bedtime story to you? Well, we're getting real Freudian, dude.
How's it Freudian?
Well, I literally asked you what your relationship is like with your mother.
Oh, yeah. We asked about the bedtime stories, not about the relationship.
Okay, well, answer the former, and then we'll get to the latter.
Okay. I feel like I do vaguely remember bedtime stories. I remember specifically like I think she read to me Harry Potter, and then there's a certain point where I was like, I'm a big boy. I read Harry Potter myself now.
Okay, but I can fall asleep reading, but I feel like it runs the risk of me getting excited about the story or about the information or whatever it is, and then I can't fall asleep.
Yeah. And you can't, you got to pick a book that's like very in the middle.
Mhm.
My dad falls asleep reading all the time.
Okay.
There was one the summer before I went off to college. I remember I got a smartphone for the first time, so of course I immediately took a bunch of photos of him sleeping.
Yes.
At the end of the summer show. My favorite one was he fell asleep on just the dedication page of a book.
Okay.
It's like
Boring.
5 words and he's already out.
Yeah. To my dear wife, Deborah, who tragically passed away in 2000. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, I guess if I was rereading a book, then I could fall asleep. You know what I mean? Like, when we were in England together,
Yeah.
because I didn't have a TV in my room, so I didn't have the listening to boring videos option. I was rereading a biography of Eminem that I had already read, and so like I know it, but I know though I'm not like what happens next. So I was no disrespect to Mr. Marshall Mathers, but I did fall asleep during that book because I already know how it ends.
Yeah. And you found it really interesting to learn what it was like to walk 8 miles in his shoes.
Yeah. Folks, if you're counting at home, I believe that must have been the third or fourth pun. Yeah, we did England together.
Yeah.
We did England. You were responsible for me having becoming an international comedian, basically. Because we did some shows in England.
It was a lovely time.
I mean, so for the listeners, we were having a nice time between us, but now this is for the listeners. Ben has an hour of stand-up called Stand Up Science.
Yeah.
And it's participatory, it's fun, it's goddamn weird, and it's a joy to watch, Ben. And when you took the tour on the road, you were very nice to have me open for you for 2 weeks in England, and we were England boys.
You were great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I should say for listeners, you're sort of part of the genesis of the show, because there's one particular bit that was the first bit, which I didn't want to talk about ever, but sometimes you confess something to friends in a private moment and they make fun of you for years. And then you're like, maybe I should make a joke about this. So do you want to say it for the listeners or should I?
Oh, Ben, no one can say it better than you.
So my parents made me drink 2 glasses of milk every single day. I was 18 years old, which is something very intimate between friends. Mm-hmm. But then you and Mark made fun of me so much.
Because it's such a... It's very particular.
Yeah, it is for sure. But it's one of those things where like you don't realize you grew up weird until you say like, we all drink 2 glasses of milk, right? And everyone's like, what the fuck, Ben? You gross weirdo. Why would you say that?
It also seems like the kind of thing, like I almost respect them for keeping it up for 18 years because that does sound like a new parent idea that they read in a book. Like if you want your boy to grow up big and strong, have them drink at least 2 glasses of milk. And it's something that they like, I can imagine enforcing for like maybe a week or 2, but they were literally like, you're 17 years old in 364 days. And they're like, Ben, have you had glass number 2 yet?
Yeah.
You're like, no, mama, no, papa, I will. But I mean, this is you fully fortified. Okay, that's a literal joke from your hour, but
yeah,
guys,
and I did give it nothing, which is what it deserves on stage as well. Did you have anything weird like that where you're like, this is how we all grew up, and everyone's like, Bobby, what?
I actually have a milk related thing, and I can't believe I had never told you until just now, because I liked soda growing up. And even now as an adult, like I'm a big diet soda fan. Like I drink a Donald Trump level of Diet Coke. It's the only thing we have in common besides the small hands and the red hair. But I always like soda. And my parents would let me drink a lot of soda, arguably too much soda. And it became a thing of like, at some point in my life, my mom was like, we got to convince this kid to eat better and drink better. So she was like, how about instead of drinking a Pepsi, you have a glass of milk and not 2. And it was, I wasn't on a set schedule like you, but she was like, why don't you drink more milk? And I was like, no, I want another Pepsi. And she said, well, why don't we compromise? And she poured the Pepsi into the milk and I drank it and it was disgusting. But it became sort of this ego thing where I'm like, this bitch isn't going to make me drink milk. So I, without enjoying it, several times drank Pepsi mixed with milk, which is disgusting.
Yeah, you did that to yourself, Bobby.
I did do it to myself. And the thing is, people are listening and they're like, isn't that like a root beer float? No, it's missing the ice cream. Because a root beer, like an ice cream float in general, is like soda ice cream. That's the dairy.
Yeah, it's missing any sense of joy as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, it's just basically like I think of that and I think of like how wars happen. You know what I mean? Where it's just ego. Because I should have been like, okay, Mom, I'll drink one Pepsi now and a glass of milk later. But I'm like, no, there's no way I'm drinking plain milk. It's not happening. So I probably would have enjoyed the plain glass of milk more, but I just couldn't let her have one.
Oh yeah, we should have done a parent swap.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Parent Trap. That's what I was thinking.
Parent Trap. I feel like your
no
mom
one would
be...
have noticed if we switched.
Yeah.
Fully identical kids.
I have a feeling that I would be a little too much, and we don't have to delve psychologically into all the family dynamics, but I think if we did a son swap, your parents would be bummed with the trade. I think they would. 'Cause your mom's a very smart lady, and I'm a little weird. But not in an esoteric, like intellectual way like you are.
I think your mom would be very proud though now if she knew how many vegetables you were eating to the point where it's genuinely rude to other people. Like when we were in England, and this is you all the time, is we'd be at a restaurant eating a meal and you would pull out your Ziploc bag of broccoli and start shoving it. You would bring food to the restaurant. And they're so polite in England, they didn't say anything.
They didn't say anything. I feel like so I do that in England, in the States, wherever I am, I have 2 baggies of carrots and 2 baggies of broccoli wherever I go. So I make sure I get 4 servings of vegetables a day. God damn, your parents would be so proud of me. Because that's 2 glasses of milk energy right there to make sure I have my vitamin A and my vitamin C. But yeah, I will, like if I'm at a restaurant and I finish the meal, I will then be like, let me get my vegetables in now. And I feel like you can do that because you purchased something at the restaurant. You know what I mean? It's you think.
I guess so.
You're saying it's poor form.
I do think it's rude. It's a little bit much.
Okay.
I think the only way you could be more pretentious about it is if you're like, could you give this to the chef? This is the finest caught broccoli from my garden. Please have him prepare a dish for me.
Well, you know what? If more restaurants,
it's like cucking the chef.
oh,
Like he's watching you eat some other man's food. You're like, ooh, I love this broccoli. Oh, your meal could never satisfy me like this broccoli does.
just in the corner jerking off. Yeah. Okay. It's you know what? I have insight. I feel like for most things I have insight where I'm like, I know I'm being weird. You know what I mean? But if I feel like it's almost necessary though. And I'll hear and accept the argument that I'm going too far in one direction. But I feel like with the amount of traveling we do, you do have to work hard to not eat like shit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying you have to carry around baggies of broccoli with you. And I will say that when I have baggies of broccoli and I eat them in public multiple times, like especially like young comedians, they'll be like, oh, bro, are those shrooms? I'm like, no, but if you need vitamin A, I got to hook up. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say young rabbits were very jealous of you.
Especially B Rabbit. That's Eminem's character in 8 Mile. So what is your go-to vegetable?
That's I'm usually pretty into like carrots and hummus.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a nice combination.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 2 vegetables together.
Mm-hmm.
But you know where I eat it? In the privacy of my own home. I don't force my vegetable lifestyle on anybody else.
Yeah, especially in front of children. I mean, come on. Okay, I'm interested because you said it's rude, and I'm not taking that as a criticism. I can understand the argument because even though I purchase food at the bar, I'm also eating outside food.
Yeah.
I understand the argument. I think I'm going to do it. Even if you fully convince me that it was rude, I would still do it. You know what I mean? Because I need my vitamins. But I hear the argument. The argument that is new that I'm interested in is that it comes across as pretentious. Do you think it's like if I'm in public, I'm like, look at me eating my vegetables. Oh, you guys don't eat your vegetables. That's interesting. Oh, you guys don't need, vitamins at all.
That'd be so funny if it did actually like work and impress ladies. Wow, look at this. He cares about his health. I
Yeah.
need to, wow, he has green bits of broccoli in every single bit of his teeth.
Yes.
I need to give him my number immediately.
Okay, so I will. So I got carrots. I got broccoli. If I know I'm like on the way to the studio, actually, I ate a handful of carrots because carrots are less likely to get stuck in your teeth.
Yeah.
Broccoli sometimes.
Oh, that's what the orange flecks around your mouth were.
Oh, really?
I noticed them outside, but I just thought like your hair was peeling or something. I don't know. Like you just bleed orange or something. So it's part of his culture. I shouldn't mention it.
It's like a redhead's version of being ashy. Damn, that's so fun. Do I still have the orange flakes?
No,
Okay.
they're gone.
Yeah. And I carry water around with me too. I'm interested because I wouldn't want it to come across because pretentious is a bad thing to come across as, right?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, while you're doing it, you look like shit. So
Yes.
no one
okay.
assumes that you think you're better than
The
them.
great equalizer. I do try to make a self-deprecating joke if I'm eating vegetables in front of someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's almost because I'm a sober.
Could we hear one now? This is so mean. I shouldn't have asked you
Just
to do
make
this.
myself say something mean about I almost did it too.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? This podcast, this episode is all about self-love. We're going to work through some stuff together to make sure that neither one of us is too anxious to fall asleep tonight.
Yeah.
I do have, so we both don't drink. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, about the
Let's put a
taking
pin in
forever
the
to-
drinking
to
thing for
fall
now.
asleep. Do you feel like when you're dating someone, like sleep compatibility is important? Because I don't know if this is rude, but I feel like if a lady's gonna like fall asleep at like midnight,
Mhm.
I cannot stay over at her place
Oh, interesting.
because I'm gonna be up for 4 to 6 more hours,
Oof.
just like with my own thoughts, trapped
Mhm.
in this place that's not my place.
Mhm.
And and if she wants to cuddle, great. I'm like trapped under her arms.
Mhm.
Like it's very bad. So I'm always like, hey, I have trouble sleeping. I need to go home, which they don't like.
Yeah, because so many people, like a lot of men, especially if they're not interested in commitment, will be like, I'm not sleeping over. And anything you say, even if it's reasonable, like if you're like, hey, I have trouble falling asleep, so I don't want to just be wide awake in the room
Yeah.
for 3 hours, does sound, especially if you're like maybe not the most secure person in the
Yeah.
world, like sounds like he's just trying to make his exit. You know
Dude,
what I mean?
for sure. They always hate when I say that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I feel like they would rather say like, hey, I'm going home to be with my wife and kids.
Yeah. So more often than not, they're like, oh, cool guy making his exit.
It's usually the first time
Mhm.
I'll just deal with it just to show that I'm polite and because I truly wish that I could
Uh-huh.
be comfortable and fall asleep and have a nice time and be there.
Yeah.
But I just can't.
hmm
It's normally the second time I'll be like, hey, I'm sorry. Or sometimes some people also stay up late. And I feel like that's the best. If we're both up late,
You need a night owl.
yeah.
Yeah. It's happened to me because I sometimes have trouble falling asleep. Not as like extreme as you, I think, but I have been dating people and they fall asleep before me and we don't have the TV on. And then sometimes I feel like once it approaches like over an hour, I'm like, I remember one time I was dating a girl and she fell asleep and I just could not fall asleep and I just went into the next room and like read or was on my phone or whatever. Because I was like, I don't want to leave while she's sleeping. I feel like that could put off bad vibes, especially if like you're new
Yeah.
to dating each other. But I feel like, if you were like in the next room, it's like, okay, well, he really couldn't fall asleep because like eventually, I mean,
Yeah, you're just curled up at the foot of her bed.
like a cat. I did one time go into the bathroom and jack off because I knew that would make me fall asleep. But I feel like if she knew, she would be devastated.
Yeah, she'd be jealous.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't enough for you?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I got that out of the way. Now it's time to fucking really enjoy myself.
Imagine if she walks in on you.
She's like,
It's just watching you sleep got me so
I show her the porn I'm watching on my phone. The only way that it could be salvageable if it was two guys. And she's like, okay, I get it, you know. Still, that would be jarring, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. People have different ideas of what it means when you're dating, and the staying the night seems to be, I think for some people it's interpreted as a at least a expression of a willingness to commit in the future.
Yeah, it is symbolic. It's a sign of respect. Sort of like, you know, you'd like to eat your broccoli at a restaurant, but you know it's rude and it would make the other person sad. So you just sort of don't do it. You just stay the night.
Well, this is a perfect segue into what I was about to say because yeah, maybe I've missed a lot of social cues in my life because with the staying over, I always thought that it could be just a convenience thing, right? So I dated this woman like for a little while. I may have told you this already, but I dated this woman for like a few times. Like we went out a few times, and then I just wasn't feeling it. And I through text, I was just like, "Hey, I'm not feeling it, but I look forward to like still being friends or whatever." And she was like, "Wow, shouldn't have done this through text." You know what I mean? And to me, I'm like, didn't think too much of it because there's a certain amount of people, there's a certain type of person that will just not handle rejection well.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't think too much of it. And then the next text was like, you know, we were like sleeping at each other's houses.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because taking the train at night sucks. You know what I mean? So I think this in combination with like me eating vegetables in front of people shows how low social Q I have. Social Q? Social IQ? EQ?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe this is, I think I'm a little bit on her side. As much as I'd like to take your side as a friend, I feel like, I don't know, and maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I feel like if it's more than like 3 or 4 dates, I feel like it should probably be in person. Especially if you've lain with them before marriage.
I think it was like 4 dates. I think so.
Okay, so that's like on the cusp. It's
on the cusp. Yeah, I think they're. It's interesting if I ever ran into her again. Would it be? Would she be like, "Hey, sorry about that," or is she like, "Hey, just so you know, you're still an asshole"? And we shall see.
Yeah, you're hoping to run into her.
Yeah,
you're hanging outside of her apartment every night.
That's the thing about living in New York is that you have a thing with someone, you break up, you literally never see them again unless they live in the exact neighborhood. The chances are very low.
I feel like sometimes on the subway, I'll pass people that I've been out with occasionally.
Yeah. I think it's interesting the different ideas people have. I feel like that's why. Okay, so this is a new thought. So no one, if you're listening, don't take it. But I think dating in New York is hard. Well, dating anywhere is hard because
you really got me. I was like, oh, Bobby's about to open up. It's about to be something personal.
Yeah, because I feel like it's one of the few areas where I feel like if you bring it up in conversation to a group of people will all have a different opinion. Like if I gave the scenario I just gave, like dated 4 times, slept over each other's houses, break up via text, am I a bad guy or a good guy? I feel like if there were 20 people, there'd be 20 different answers. And I'm sure some people are going to write whether or not I'm the bad guy or the good guy to the Before Hours Podcast at gmail.com. Guys, let me know if I'm a piece of shit or I'm actually very cool or somewhere in the middle. So have you been dating?
Listen, it's pretty difficult in the city. I don't know if you've heard.
Well, we established that you might not be able to date a woman that falls asleep before midnight. That might be your deal breaker. But it's kind of interesting because
I sort of date like a vampire.
Yeah.
Can't be doing
because we're both we're both guys
men
that
of the night.
we're both men of the night. No, I'm somewhere in the. I feel like I would, if I didn't do comedy, I would naturally be a morning person. That's why I start the podcast by saying I'm an occasional morning person.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what my body wants, but by nature of me doing stand up, it's like impossible. You know what I mean? Like I would love to go to bed at 10, but sometimes I got to do a spot at 11:30. So just is what it is. But you're a night person. Like
Yeah.
unrelated to your occupation, you would be a night person.
Correct.
But the parameters, like if you're like, hey, ladies, if you're listening, these are Ben's rules, okay? And he's gonna text. There are his boundaries that he's gonna text to you later. By the time this comes out, that the Jonah Hill thing will be old news. But
yeah, it'll be over the hill.
hell yeah, dude. The pun counter at home, please mark another tally. But if you're like, hey, if
They're just marking it on their body.
oh, that would be a lady for both you and I, Ben.
Yeah, I did read a lot of your secrets when I was 12.
I have secrets to a 12-year-old is not a good sentence.
Said when I was 12.
Yeah, yes, perfect. So you, yeah, if you're like, hey, I'm looking for a woman that is, a after midnight bedtime person, but you're not looking for a partier because you don't party.
It doesn't matter to me.
Really? Because I feel like, because I don't drink, you don't drink. Like I feel like I'll date a woman that drinks, of course, but a woman that drinks a lot, like a woo girl.
Okay, yeah, if it's like very essential to their lifestyle,
It's not
it
gonna
might be an issue.
Yeah. Mhm.
Not in the sense that like we can't be compatible, but just sense that like I don't know if I want to be out around a bunch of drunk people all the time, nonstop, outside of doing stand-up comedy every night.
Yeah. That's
Unless they're paying me and laughing at my jokes.
yeah. Have you? It is weird after a show because sometimes you'll run into people and they're drunk and they want to like talk to the comedian.
Yes.
And it's I feel like it's always annoying to talk to a drunk person when you're sober. Meaning like not drinking. Yeah, there's a sort if someone's buzzed, but I feel like once they start slurring their words, I'm like, I gotta get out of this conversation. You know what I mean? Because you're just not on the same wavelength with that person.
That was a good impression of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot in common other than the fact that we speak the same. It's very funny that I could barely talk and I wanted to do a podcast. I think that's
Well, you're practicing, buddy.
it's
You're getting
basically,
better.
have you seen the King's Speech? That's what this is.
The short king speech.
Yeah. For those just watching, I'm only 5'11". So Ben, you've never drank.
Correct.
And what's the reasoning behind that?
I don't know. It never seemed that interesting, or like whenever anyone explained why they drink, I was like, oh, well, if there's something I don't like about myself or something I want to change, I should work on that myself and not use this thing to do that for me.
Ah, okay. Because some folks use alcohol as like a social lubricant.
Yeah.
I feel like some people only talk to the opposite sex or the same sex, as it were, if they're at least a little bit intoxicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I never do it. Never talk to a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, you lose your inhibitions and start talking to women. That's interesting because the type of anxiety that you described where it sometimes keeps you from falling asleep, it's probably a good thing that you never drank, because I feel like that might be the catalyst for alcoholism for some people, because if you drink enough alcohol, you will fall asleep.
Oh. This is how I become alcoholic.
Yeah.
Oh, Bobby's podcast changed my life.
There are some late in life, like people that get into booze, or people get. I feel like I have. So for those that don't know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I feel like I've always had the gene. Like I started smoking weed when I was 14, and pretty much after the first time that I smoked weed, I was like, I have to do this all the time. And I did do it as often as I was able to get away with, as someone that lived with their parents, of course. And then I gave up weed only when alcohol was available to me and I liked alcohol more.
Oh, is that what they mean when they say marijuana is a gateway drug?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so people roll their eyes at that, but it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
Alcohol will ruin your life.
Yeah.
It almost ruined yours.
Yes. Yeah. I stopped when I was 25, and because I had to, and I'm 32 now. So, it's sort of this interesting thing where like people have different like ideas of what it means to be a sober person. It's something I almost never think about. And it doesn't make me like, it's just different. It doesn't make me better than anybody that like needs to do the 12 steps or anything. But to me, it was just like an allergy that I had that I finally realized that it's almost like if I was eating peanuts and my throat was closing up every day for 9 years. It just took me a really long time to be like, hey, it's not good when my
Yeah.
throat closes up. from
Except when you were
peanuts.
drinking, your throat would open up.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what they say, I had my Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 penises before I was like, okay, I'm an expert. I can stop doing this now. Hell yeah, dude. We sort of have the same. It's interesting, like someone quitting drinking and someone never drinking, they live the same lifestyle now. But I almost have, when I'm around drunk people, and again, when I'm around drunk people, it's like, all right, now it's time for me to make my exit because this is annoying.
Mm.
But I like empathize. I'm like, I've almost any type of drunk person. I'm like, I've been that guy,
Yeah.
been every type of drunk person, so I can have empathy for them. But for you, when you're around a drunk person, you're like, what is that like for you?
Fine, bad. I feel like drunk people have a habit of being very touchy feely,
Mhm.
which I don't like.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty bad at telling if people are drunk.
Mhm.
But the good news is drunk people love telling you that they're drunk.
That's true. Yeah. There's this a funny experience is when you go to the bathroom when you're decidedly like you get up from the stool or whatever and you do the wobbly thing, you're like, okay, here it comes, and you're like, let's look at how fucked up I am in the bathroom mirror. And then it's always worse. It's always like, oh my God, I've been presenting like this to people for hours, but your inhibitions are so low that you also don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So, you have this bit that might be retired about, do you know what I'm about to say?
I think so, but go for it.
Because the first time I saw you do this, it made me laugh because it gave me a window into what a person's life is like if they've never been drunk before.
Yeah.
So you've never been drunk before, and you made your drunk friend a hot dog, and he told you that it was, quote, the best hot dog he'd ever eaten.
Yeah.
And because you haven't experienced the type of like alcoholic euphoria, you're like, damn, I'm fucking good at making hot dogs.
Yeah, for like 5 years.
Yeah.
You're like, Ben, are you good at cooking? Well, I made some of the best hot dogs I've ever had in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and okay, so I shortened it for like the bit. It wasn't actually a friend.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a summer as
You lied to me?
Yeah, this is part of me making amends.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was the summer I spent as a sous chef in a bowling alley.
Okay.
And it was a customer in the bowling alley that I
Mhm.
made the hot dog for.
Oh, okay. And he
Yeah.
said it's the best hot dog that you ever had. Okay. Damn, a drunk customer.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was good though. Can I just describe it in my defense?
Please describe the
that-
hot dog.
We're doing a lot of like courtroom defenses right now. Okay, so it's hot dog, cut a slit down it. Stop licking your lips, dude.
When you said slit, I was like, all right, I'm listening.
No, you
How big is this slit? Is it a tight hot dog?
Okay, let's move on to the next part of the podcast. But so you put like American cheese in it. You wrap it in bacon.
Mhm.
You bake it in the oven. The bacon gets crispy,
Mhm.
and then you put like a spicy pepper relish on it.
Mm-hmm.
So a decent hot dog.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds like it was a good hot dog. Okay.
Yeah.
He was the hot dog was a 7, and then the alcohol made it a
Yes.
9. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
So right now we're talking about food. What do you have a food routine, Or is it just sort of like, it's probably not as minute as making sure you drink 2 glasses of milk a day, or making sure you're eating 2 servings of carrots and 2 servings of broccoli. But do you have a food routine?
Yeah, generally it's
A diet. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, generally I try to do like lunch at home and then just like dinner out wherever I am doing comedy.
Mhm.
So lunch will be like a peanut butter sandwich and then carrots and hummus.
Mhm.
Try to be like protein, vegetables.
Mhm.
And then yeah, dinner's just whatever garbage wherever I am.
Yeah, that is smart. I do something similar because I feel like, yeah, dinner you don't always have control over as a comedian because you're out and about.
The first step of dieting is realizing you're powerless to dinner.
Yeah. And then you got to make amends to all of the poor decisions you made while
Yeah.
dieting.
Yeah, all the restaurants you brought broccoli into.
I feel like I went to the David Buster's at Times Square, which is a very cool sentence. I think I was with Matt Marin. That's his vibe. He always wants to go to
Yeah.
like the chain restaurants in Times Square,
Sure.
which is so funny because it's like, I mean, we're legitimately the only native English speakers there. You know, like it's like only like
You're not
tourists that don't
counting
know.
people from Florida.
Yeah, but it's only like Italian, not Italian, like foreigners in general that don't know how to navigate New York. So they just walk into Times Square and see the bright lights, and they're like, there. But like also like me and Matt, like ironically but not ironically, we'll go to those places as well. But I had I think I had fettuccine Alfredo. And then I was so excited that I was able to pour my broccoli onto the Alfredo sauce. You know what I mean? Broccoli Alfredo, underrated.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty disgusting, but fettuccine Alfredo in New York City,
Mhm.
you could have gone to an authentic Italian place like the Times Square Olive Garden.
Yeah, but the Times Square Olive Garden doesn't have Guitar Hero. The Times Square David Buster's does.
You're right. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices.
That's I love that. Like I have a bunch of comedian friends that we could like go to dumb places like that because I feel like when you're going out with a girl,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta bring her to like I call it like a girlfriend restaurant. I'm sure you've heard me describe this before. There's pizza.
Yeah.
There's good old boy pizza and there's girlfriend pizza. And girlfriend pizza is like artisan pizza that doesn't fill you up. And like the good old boy pizza. I don't know why I said good old boy because like the South is not, you know what I mean?
Oh, I was just thinking about the movie Old Boy.
What is that?
Oh no.
Are we led to a bad place? What's old boy?
Yeah.
I have no idea what this movie is.
Oh man. Is it okay if I spoil it for you?
Sure.
It's
Spoiler
like-
alert for those listening, by the way, too.
Yeah. It's
Pause this, watch Old Boy, come back.
it's like an action movie. This is gonna be offensive, but I think it's Korean. It might not be Korean. It's some sort of East Asian action movie.
Mhm.
It's like a guy he's fighting and stuff, and then there's like a girl that he saves, and of course they like fall in love. But then at the end, the big twist is that the girl that he saves and falls in love with, and they were intimate, was actually his daughter, and the villain like brainwashed him to make him forget and her forget.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
I'm so upset. God damn.
I told you.
What an evil fuck. Because I've been getting into Stephen King and he has a bunch of like upsetting premises.
Yes.
But fucking, I feel like that one is like, holy shit. Like, because that is, it's almost genius though. If you're like, how can I fuck someone's life up? And it's like, make them accidentally fuck their daughter.
Yeah, it's like the hackiest comedy show crowd work, but made into a movie.
Yeah.
You two fucking no, we're father and daughter. Okay, I'm gonna write a 90-minute action movie about this.
Oh
Actually,
my god, dude! I want to watch that movie now. Even sometimes if I find out the twist of a movie, I still want to watch it. You know what I mean?
yeah, you're just twisted like that.
I'm twisted, dude. That Twisted is the name of a Psychopathic Records rapper, by the way. There's no
Oh.
way you would have known that. But if you like Insane Clown Posse, Twisted is sort of like Diet Insane Clown Posse.
Oh, and that like you pour it in with milk.
Yeah. Yeah, I only know. By the way, I'm not a big ICP fan. Although I also don't know how magnets work. But I feel. Oh, you would hate that song, Ben.
You've played it for me.
Oh, I have. Because they have a line in the song. If you're unfamiliar, if you're not down with the clown until you're dead in the ground, Insane Clown Posse has a song called Miracles where they're like, the premise is like done before, where it's basically like you have to stop and think about the beauty of the world and the things around you. And they're describing like, why is the moon so far away or shit like that. And then there's a line though, I don't want to talk to a scientist. Motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed. And as a scientist, Ben, I played it for you to see how you felt about it.
Yeah, it got me pretty pissed.
You got pissed.
Yeah, because I mean, I think part of science is that they're actively striving
Mhm.
for knowledge and learning new things all the time. So it's actually good and healthy. The scientists are like, actually, that thing we told you before was wrong. We learned this new thing. This is right.
Mhm.
That's progress.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like everyone's so sad Pluto's not a planet. Cool. We learn new things. It's no longer a planet. That's fine. You should be okay with that. Down with the clown dead in the ground. You're living a bad lifestyle. You're gonna die at 35. Okay, you don't have that many years till you're down into the ground with the clowns. You know?
Violent J, don't listen to Ben. We're happy you didn't die from a heart attack a few years ago. Good job not drinking so many Fagos. And I love that you know what Fago is.
Yeah, that you made me do that. That I was a nice boy drinking my milk and you ruined me. They said the big city was full of sin.
So Ben, if folks want to maybe DM you and tell you that they've had 2 glasses of milk today, how can they do so?
Oh yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at This Is Ben Miller.
Mhm.
My website, benmillercomedy.com.
Mhm.
Touring all around the
Mhm.
US and internationally. If you want to see me tell jokes, Bobby might be hosting some of the shows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks, if you have a chance to see Ben because he tours all over, go see him. He's hilarious. Stand-up science. Love watching it. Even if I'm not opening for him, you should go see it. So thank you for joining us, Ben. And remember, folks, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm just playing Night Owls. You know I love you.